am a pure Windows fanboy my whole life, and I suddenly had the urge to try out Linux one day. I chose Pop! OS as my gateway to Penguin Nerd World for 4 days. Okay, before we start this video, I'm gonna put it out. I'm not gonna praise Pop! OS for the sake of this video, but simply put out my opinions on it. And yes, I know Linux kills Windows with the sheer amount of security it offers and its open source nature, but the average user would rather care about the UI and ease of use, so that's what I'm gonna cover. The first thing that caught my eye was there was no bloatware. Epic. If I were on Windows, I'd be bombarded with apps on my start menu that I never really used. So kudos to Pop! OS for that. The desktop screen of Pop! OS looks pretty neat, but the only thing that bothered me was the size of the taskbar, or dock in Linux. But that was easily fixable in settings and my desktop looked perfect. But still, in terms of aesthetics, I would hand it over to Windows 11 for this. That translucence embedded into Windows had a classy look, compared to Pop! OS, which whilst was modern, lacked the classiness. But the customizability offered in not just Pop! OS, but Linux as a whole, just annihilates the default aesthetics as a factor. You can basically customize pretty much anything, anyway, to your liking and taste. I also really want to emphasize the consistency of Pop! OS. When I have dark mode turned on in Windows, the property window, the control panel, and such stuff are in light mode for no apparent reason. Some parts of Windows appear ancient, while others are modern. This is just frustrating in an aesthetics point of view, hurting the claim I made just a few seconds ago even more. While some apps like settings look better than Pop! OS on Windows, some of the deeper parts look brutally worse. Personally, I dislike the slower animations on Pop! OS, which I guess is not a big factor, but still, I would like to put it there. Overall, I feel the aesthetics-minded folks would prefer Pop! OS over Windows, although its default look isn't that appealing. One of the downsides of Pop! OS that I noticed was that despite setting the refresh rate to the same in both operating systems, scrolling documents and web pages on Pop! OS feels choppier than Windows 11, which was quite a bit surprising to me. Navigating through the OS, I really missed the minimize-maximize button. Instead, I had to double-click on the top bar here, which I guess would not be a big deal after a few days of usage. Snapping windows wasn't as visually apparent, and you can only do it through your keyboard, not with your cursor, which once again we'd get used to in a matter of days. I wanted to install Discord, so I navigated to the App Store on Pop! OS, which is called Pop Shop. Although the UI wasn't as pleasing as the Microsoft Store, most apps I would use were in Pop Shop, so life was easy. Until I wanted to install apps not in Pop Shop. I wanted to install Brave, so I went over to their website, and as a Windows user, I was baffled, flabbergasted, bewildered, stuck. So I had to run a series of commands in the terminal in order to install a browser. I really missed the setup wizard of Windows at this point, where everything could be done graphically. I tried installing Java on Pop! OS, and for that I had to install a file from the internet, then I had to type in a few commands on the terminal. I already was annoyed at this point, but no, it's not done. Linux gave me an error. I researched for a time on what that error is, but all was fruitless, so I gave up. Speaking of apps, there are barely any native AAA games. Whilst Linux gaming is improving and Pop! OS being one of the top distros out there for gaming, it is still not up to the standard of Windows. Here's something weird I experienced in Pop! OS. The laptop I'm using here for this is the Dell XPS 15, a laptop with some of the finest speakers in the market. When I played video and audio files on Pop! OS, it legit sounded like the speakers of a budget laptop. The loudness and the bass took a significant hit. There was a certain level of clarity in the audio that was missing. Hear it for yourself. Perhaps poor audio drivers are the root cause for this problem. I also want to touch up on the feedback of the OS, which was quite simply obscure. For example, I once accidentally tried to install an app from the Pop Shop without turning Wi-Fi on. On Windows, if I attempted to do so, I'd get a big bold message saying my internet was not connected. But in Linux, Pop Shop would just close. Only after a few times did I notice that there was a bland bar saying my Wi-Fi wasn't connected before closing in a few seconds once again. So you see, that's my experience and thoughts on Linux. The consistency and the customizability were huge factors that impelled me towards Pop! OS, and it was mostly a bodacious experience. That's it. This is Rishi signing off.